Hey, Dan Beagleman here. In this video, I'll explore the 12-bar blues cycle, and I'll show you some variations on the blues cycle that distinguish one blues song from another. I'll also look at other types of blues cycles, the 8-bar blues cycle, the 14-bar blues cycle, and I'll also look at tunes that have signature riffs, in other words, blues tunes or songs built on the 12-bar blues cycle that have signature or identifiable riffs. So, on to the 12-bar blues cycle and its variations. The common 12-bar blues cycle uses the 1, 4, and 5 chord from the key that you're in. If I'm in the key of A, for example, A would be the 1 chord, D would be the 4 chord, E would be the 5 chord. If I'm in the key of C, I would have C, F, and G. If I'm in G, I have G, C, and D, 1, 4, 5. If I'm in E, E, A, and B, right, 1, 4, 5. What you do with it, obviously, can determine, what song you're playing, and there's, of course, it's an infinite amount of things that you can do with this. So I like to think of the 12-bar blues broken up into 3 sections of 4 bars. Bars 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12. One of the most common cycles, or probably the most common cycle, is 4 bars of the 1 chord, 2 bars of the 4 chord, 2 bars of the 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord. So let's say I'm playing a blues just line, something like that. So I play the 1 chord 4 times, 2, 3, 4. Now that's my first 4 bars. Bars 5 through 8, I'm going to play the 4 chord twice, the 1 chord twice, 5 chord, 4, 1, 5. Again, very, very, very common blues cycle. And of course, if I played that as a shuffle, that was straight 8th notes. If I played it as a shuffle feel, like bounce or swing 8th notes, and on and on with that pattern. Now, the key thing, or the important thing about these variations are the main variations take place at bars 2, 10, and 12. Very common to go to the 4 chord on bar 2 and then return to the 1 chord for bar 3 and 4. The 9th bar, the last of the 3 sections, sometimes referred to as the turnaround part. It's kind of the height or the end of the cycle, and it's turning around to go towards the end, so you'll start up again. The 9th bar is always going to be the 5 chord. If I'm in the key of A, it would be E, 4 chord, 1 chord, but you can also stay on the 5 chord for bar 10, so I could play the 5 chord again, and then skip over the 4 chord and go right to the 1 chord. And then for bar 12, you have the option of going to the 5 chord or staying on the 1 chord. So I'll play through a couple of cycles or variations just to show you. Here I'm going to use the variation where I'm going to go to the 4 chord on bar 2, and I'm going to stay on the 5 chord for bar 10, and I'm going to stay on the 1 chord for bar 12. And I'll play it as a straight rhythm, straight 8th notes. So 1 chord, 4, back to 1, 4 chord, 1, five chord, and then instead of going to the 4 chord, I could stay there. So 2 bars of the 5 chord. Now I have to go to the 1 chord. If I went to the 4 chord, it would not work. It would extend, it would be turning it into like a different type of a cycle, and probably wouldn't sound very good either. So those 3 measures are the primary or the most important, variations available. Bar 2, bar 10, and bar 12. And you can use one of them. You can use all 3. You can use the first and third. You can use the second and third. And by using one or more of those variations is what determines one blues song from another. For example, Statesboro Blues of the Allman Brothers, everybody's probably aware of that. blues in the shuffle in the key of D, and then it goes right to the 4 chord for the second bar and then back. In other words, that's your first set of 4 chord, right? So that will, show you that layout. And that's one of the most important things, to see about blues, or to see, the difference between one blues tune from another, is the layout in terms of what variations of that 3-chord structure it's going to be using. Now, along with the variations used that distinguish one blues tune from another, a very important element is the 8th note feel. Straight 8th notes versus swing or shuffle 8th notes. Most blues tunes, well, a lot of music in that regard, but since we're just talking about blues here, a lot of the patterns are going to be just like an 8th note feel, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in. Let's say if I'm in the key of A, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in. That's straight 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and very, very even there. If I play this as a swing or shuffle 8th notes, it would have that bounce to it. Right? So a very, very clear distinction between those two feels. And of course, depending on the tune that you're playing, Statesboro Blues, the Allman Brothers, and on and on is a 12-bar blues shuffle in the key of D. Roadhouse Blues, The Doors. It has that bounce to it. And then you can have blues tunes that have straight 8th notes, more like a rock and roll. The straight 8th notes actually tend to lean more into the, use the term rock and roll, like, Chuck Berry. Johnny B. Good type of guitar playing. So again, the straight 8th notes, more in the rock and roll genre. These bounce 8th notes or swing 8th notes tend to be more like the blues shuffles, and of course slow blues. Things like that. Right? Like a slow blues, a Stormy Monday kind of a thing. Those are going to be more in the shuffle feel. It's actually, a lot of times those are written in a 12/8. 12/8 notes, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, like that, So again, pay attention to whether a blues tune is straight 8th notes or swing 8th notes. Another important thing about blues tunes in general is whether the song has a pickup measure. And a pickup measure is kind of sometimes referred to as a lead-in measure. It's a little bit of a lead-in pickup riff or something to set up the tune. In other words, right before beat 1 would start. One type of a lead-in goes right to measure 1. For example, let's say I'm playing a blues and I want to start, say in the key of B, it's like a slow, moderate slow blues. 1, 2, 3. And that note, that's beat 1. Right, leads me right in. So that's a short pickup going right into measure 1. You can also do a lead into bar 9. In other words, let's say if I'm in key of C, the 9th measure is where the 5 chord would be is G. So I can also do a lead in to. So what I played there was the little pickup. When I hit that note, the band is in, and we're at bar 9. Bar 10, and then bar 11, and bar 11 and 12. Okay, so that was a pickup into bar 9, as opposed to 1, pick up right into the beginning of the tune. And that's a distinction between some slow blues tunes from another. You can also have pickups to like an up-tempo swing, let's say blues, an up-tempo thing. And a pickup could be a 1, 2, 3. Right? And suppose instead of just starting to a 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can have 1, 2, 3. And for like a swing jump blues kind of thing like that. So that in that case I just did a little pickup and went right into the one chord. So things to pay attention to when you're listening to blues tunes: does it have a pickup? And if it does, is it leading into right into the one chord, or is it a pickup into bar 9 and then covering the last section, the last 4 bars of the blues cycle before the tune actually begins? Before the cycle begins at bar 1. So to summarize, the important things regarding blues tunes and what distinguishes one from another would be, the variations that are used in terms of the chord cycle, whether it's straight eighth notes, like a Johnny B. Good, or whether it's like swing or bounce eighth notes, blues shuffle, okay? Third, the key. Fourth, the tempo. And 5, whether there's a pickup measure to start the tune off. And those, again, are all the elements that you can, look at. Now, the majority of blues tunes and songs built on the 12-bar blues platform are 12 bars, a cycle that just keeps repeating, and following that layout as far as what variations are being used. Although there are times when in the same tune, the variations may change. For example, the song Crossroads by Cream has a variation in terms of where the intro and the solos are built on, I think it says, the one chord for 4 times. It doesn't go 1, 4, 1, 1. It goes 1, 1, 1, 1, then the 4 chord. But on the verses, it goes 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord. So again, you can have different variations. In other words, once you decide what the variations are, you're not locked in with that for the entire tune. You can mix these up. Every cycle of 12 bars can be changed. But that being said, the fact that most blues tunes are built on a 12-bar cycle, there are other types of cycles as far as the amount of bars. There's a common 14-bar cycle, and to demonstrate, there's a song called "Got Love If You Want It," and it's one of those like blues standards that's been covered by a lot of people. John Hammond Jr., Fabulous Thunderbirds, and Johnny Winter. So if you're interested, you could just like look that up. Called "Got Love If You Want It," and it's played, of course, in different keys, but depending on the artist. But in the key of E, it's straight eighth note feel. It's kind of like a funky kind of a thing, and it has 14 bars as opposed to 12. And what happens is at the end, most blues tunes with the variations, if it stays on the one chord, in other words, if you're using one of the variations that you saw earlier, where bar 11 and 12 stay on the one chord, it's going to add 2 more bars of that. So it'll be bars 11, 12, 13, and 14 will all be the one chord, and then it goes back to the top, and it uses 4 bars of the one chord. So actually, it'll be playing the one chord 8 times in a row, 4 at the end of the cycle, and then 4 at the beginning of the cycle for the next one. So just here's how that tune goes: a 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the top right there. So that cycle is 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 5, 1, 1, 1, 1. And again, the 1, 4, 5 meaning the chords that it's built on. And we're in the key of E, so E, A, and B. So interesting, it has that extra 2 bars at the end there. And that has sometimes to do with the lyric of the tune. On that song, the last line of first verse is "God love you want it." we can rock a while, we can rock a while. So that line is repeated, and that's where those extra 2 bars like come into focus. Okay, another common variation on the 12-bar blues cycle. When I say variation, I mean in terms of the amount of measures, is an 8-bar cycle. And probably one of the most recognizable tunes is a tune called Key to the Highway. Okay, and that's going to be an 8-bar cycle. 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord twice, 1, 5, 1, 5 release. So it kind of sounds something like this. And top. So you got the 8 bars. Bar 1, 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5, and now you turn around the last 2 bars. 1, 5, 4, 1, 5, and how many turnarounds there are? An infinite amount of turnarounds. Again, turnaround meaning the last 2 bars of the cycle, something that happens to bring you back to the top. Turn around back to the top. Hence, that's why it's called turnarounds. Now there are many tunes that are built on the 12-bar blues cycle. Some that are recognizable as blues tunes, and there are some tunes that just people might not realize that it's a blues tune until it's pointed out to them. They go, wow, I didn't realize that that's built on a 12-bar blues platform. And there are a lot of tunes that have signature riffs, recognizable riffs, and for example, I'll throw a couple at you here. Sunshine You Love by Cream, everybody knows that. Right? That riff, or Sunshine You Love, is really kind of like a 16-bar blues. It's like a blues for the first 8 bars, and then the last 8 bars kind of just do like a rhythm pattern, a little, not exactly like a 12-bar blues cycle. So in other words, there's a signature riff. That's your 1 chord, 4 chord, and then back to the 1 chord. All right, and now at bar 9, at the 5 chord, it does not play that riff anymore. It has that. 3, 4. Okay, so the last 8 bars are just that chord cycle, A, C, G 3 times, and then A for 2 bars. But the first 8 bars, that riff, right? But as you can see, the first 8 bars, you have that riff based on that, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, and then it branches off into that other section. Staying with Cream, there's a song called Politician. I think it's in the key of D flat. So that's the 1 chord 4 times, then the 4 chord. 1 chord. Then on the 5 chord, it doesn't play that line. 5 chord, 4 chord, and then back to the riff on the 1 chord. Right, so 12-bar blues pattern, a signature riff that's played on the chords except for the 5 chord, except for bars 9 and 10, when it goes from the 5 chord to the 4 chord and then returns to the riff. One Way Out, Allman Brothers. Everybody on the planet probably knows this. Right? Now that actually, you can look at it as a 12-bar blues or a 24-bar blues. If you count that as an up-tempo thing, in other words, like it follows the 12-bar cycle, but everything is doubled. If you listen to the drums, kind of playing it more in a like a double time feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. right? If you count it as a halftime feel, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, right? But still, it's going to just follow. That's your like recognizable riff. And then it'll just run that for the 1 chord, the 4 chord, 5 chord, right? So another song that's built on the 12-bar or 24-bar blues platform. Going Down, Freddie King. Although many people have done the tune, like so many blues tunes, covered by many artists, but Freddie King is probably one of his most known tunes, that and Hideaway. And it was covered by Jeff Beck, lots of artists. Interesting thing on that tune, the way that works, there's a signature line, right? And that happens at bars 2, bar 6, and bar 10. The way that works, the layout of the tune is, the cycle is 1-1-1-1-4-4-1-1-5-5-1-1, I believe. So it's straight eighth notes, and it just kind of pumps straight eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the riff. Or a 4 chord. 5 chord riff, and on like that. And as I said earlier, seeing the blues cycle in terms of 3 sets of 4 bars, I think it's a good way to really break it up so you can really get a sense of the sections, if you will. Another one, recognizable riff, Lucille, Little Richard. Rock and roll, straight eighth notes. I think it's in the key of C. There's your riff. So as soon as you hear that, if you know the tune, you go, yeah, okay, that's Lucille. And it'll run this across the 12 bars, playing that riff for each of the 3 chords. 1 chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. 5 chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. And top. And start the cycle again. Jailhouse Rock, Elvis Presley, starts with a little pickup chord on the upbeat of 3. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. When the 4 chord comes in, 1, right? Something interesting about that tune, where I talked before about the importance of distinguishing the eighth note feel, whether it's straight eighth notes or swing or shuffle eighth notes. What's interesting about this tune, it has a swing feel to it, or a bounce, shuffle feel, but when they come into the 4 chord, the guitar player, I think it's Scotty Moore, plays straight eighth notes as opposed to playing. He's playing. And then back to the swing feel. So there's that kind of push-pull thing where he's playing like straight eighth notes against the bass and drums playing kind of a swing thing, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And because of that, I've played that tune in hundreds of bands over the years, and I don't think anybody's ever played it right. So just, if you're going to play Jailhouse Rock, listen to the record, try to play it the right way. It makes a big difference. Scuttlebutt and Stevie Ray Vaughan has a signature guitar riff. It has, like, it's a lead in or pickup to the 1 chord. And there's your 1 chord. 4 chord. chord, he's playing a 7#9. You know, so that's another very, very recognizable riff on a 12-bar blues. And again, to summarize the important elements of the blues tune or the structure of the blues song, you want to pay attention to: 1, what are the variations that are being used? 2, straight eighth notes versus swing or shuffle eighth notes. 3, what key you're in. 4, the tempo of the song. And 5, does the song have a pickup measure, or does it start right away on beat 1? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any questions or comments in the comments section below. I'm Dan Beagleman, and those are the variations on the 12-bar blues. Have a nice day.